Hello and welcome to Jam Presents, a podcast series by me, Mike Groves, and a good mate of mine, Jason Cripps. In this fifth series, we're heading to Camp Pleasant as we try to catch a murderer who just so happens to be a campmate in Killer Camp. Killer Camp Episode 4. I have nothing written for preamble.
Lazy bastard. Why not? Give me a good reason.
I'll give you a very good reason. We recorded episode 3 and I went straight into 4 and started taking notes immediately. I just wanted to know what happened because in the last episode we lost Rob. Was it Rob? Yeah, it was Rob.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
As in, he got taken by Killer Bruce, but obviously it was revealed that Rob was the killer. Now, as soon as that episode ended, I wanted to watch the next one because I didn't know how the format was going to work anymore. We were told, and we were told again in this episode actually, that there was always two killers, and that those clues could have related to both. And actually, when you take the fact that we've got like 12 or 15 clues or something now, it would make sense, wouldn't it? That, you know,
yeah, not one person is that interesting to have all those things about them.
Not one person collects stamps and wants to be an astronaut. That's impossible.
Yeah. Or does it apply to both? Is it just coincidental that both collect stamps and both wanted to be an astronaut?
I really like steak. If that's the case, then Sam definitely isn't the killer because he doesn't like steak.
Oh, we get to it, but one of my favourite bits of the whole episode slash probably whole series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It happens in this episode?
Yeah.
I cannot wait. Is it early on or?
I think probably halfway through.
Oh, we'll get to it. Make sure you stop me in my tracks if I try and...
I will. I'll do that anyway.
So this episode opens by reminding us that Rob is the killer and continues on from the moment that they all find out there's a second killer among them, with Bobby leaving them by the campfire only for Bruce to come and chase them away.
I love it.
It's a great opening.
Again, the more that Bruce is in it, the better the show gets.
It really does. And it's a shame that we didn't get episodes 3 and 4, or the quality of the episodes of 3 and 4 in the first two.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I know it's another complete structural thing, but the way that one of them is a killer, although Bruce is the killer, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sort of annoys me. I don't know how else they would do it.
No, I like it better now Bruce is actually getting involved rather than just pressing buttons from about 100 yards. Because we already mentioned the killer could do that. The killer could remotely do something on their phone, couldn't they? Yeah. So now at least Bruce is getting his hands dirty. It genuinely feels like that they've gone back after watching the first 2 episodes and gone, yeah, there's something missing. Oh yeah, we've got a crazy handyman on our hands and he's not actually that brutal.
With a duct tape face.
Yeah. So I mentioned already that before he leaves, Bobby says that all this time there was a second killer and the clues may have related to both of them. The thing I picked up on, or the thing I find interesting is, do you think it was Rob that had sex on a balcony, or was that the other killer? Rob, as Rob would say himself, he's never had sex.
With Bruce.
Yeah, maybe they all relate to Bruce. Yeah. All these clues. Mile High Club. Bruce.
Bruce. Imagine his passport photo.
Do you think he takes like the tape or the bandages off, or is that
horrifically burnt?
Oh, God.
Oh, that's what I'm assuming. I don't think we've been told that.
What? That he's got burns underneath?
Yeah. That's the only reason you would duct tape your face like that, surely. I mean, all the times I've burnt myself, I always chuck duct tape on it.
Is it though, or is it just bandages and we've not got good enough quality footage to actually see what it is?
Maybe I just, I want it to be duct tape. But he's not the mummy, is he? He's not the invisible man.
Yeah, what if he takes the bandages off and there's nothing there? It's just, that's how he gets around. Like takes his clothes off and then puts them on when he gets to scare them.
It's like 3 kids on top of each other.
It's like Huey, Dewey and Louie, like, all stacked up on the shoulders.
Can I have 1 movie ticket, please?
Oh, dear me. So, Eleanor tells us early on that the clues are still pointing towards Sam, but now feels that's too obvious. But to be fair, we thought that Rob was going to be too obvious, so it could still be Sam.
Yeah.
Although they read into that more than we have. For Sam's had a lot more focus than we have as the viewer. Rob was obvious and we saw it from a mile off, and they only started suspecting him a bit later on. Whereas Sam, I don't really suspect him at all. Like,
no, I don't expect him either.
Expect him.
Expect him. What did I say?
Expect him. Do you mean you don't
suspect him? I don't suspect him.
Don't expect him to just come through the door right now.
And kill me.
He doesn't know where I live.
Oh, he doesn't kill people anyway. Bruce does. One of the things that I'm not sure who said it. I need to start putting like names by my notes. I think it might have been like Holly or Eleanor said about Rob going, saying, "Well, we all voted for him, but we didn't really want him to leave."
Yeah, well, why did you
And
fucking vote for him then?
I was thinking that's how it works.
I think it's because they wanted the money. They wanted to win the money, but they didn't. I think the reason they're gutted is because now they were nowhere near. They're nowhere closer to getting the money. Because, well, I guess they're a killer closer, but because
So
now
they're
they've got
50% closer then.
All right, yeah, they're about halfway.
That's a pretty big step.
Yeah, they're halfway there to finding out the killer's identity. But I think it was one of those that they were doing it because they thought they were going to win a few $100s at the end of the night. And when that didn't happen, they're like, shit, not only do we not have the money, but we've also lost one of our mates now.
Yeah, true.
Even though we all voted for him, we just didn't want it to be true because he's so sweet and innocent, but clearly not.
The next morning, they're all chatting on the bed, and Jacques tells us that he wanted to rip Rob's moustache right off his face last night.
I wanted to rip his moustache right off when I found out. I was absolutely fuming. Livid.
Holly seems gutted still that Rob was a killer, and Sam suggests the pressure is off him somewhat.
Can we address this going forward now?
Yeah.
Is it Jacques or is it Jax?
Well,
Because
so,
I would read it French. I would say Jacques.
Jacques, yeah? And that's how we've been saying it.
But
right?
a lot of them just say Jax.
Well, you've been saying Jacques, but yeah, they say Jax. Oh, Jax. But
no, Jax is like Jax. That's
yeah.
like Mortal Kombat Jax.
And Jax is like short for Jackson, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe. But he's very much a Jacques, the spelling.
Jacques.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a sexy spelling.
Yeah, definitely. He's not a Jax, mate.
But they're ruining it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good. I thought, because everyone was saying it, I was thinking, am I going insane? Because even I think Bobby says it later on. I'm thinking, you're part of the production crew and you're saying it wrong.
How does Jacques say it himself? Does he introduce himself? Hi, I'm Jax, or is it hi, I'm Jacques? Does he put on a little bit of a French accent when he says
Every
it?
time he says his name, he turns French.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Jacques. What, guys?
He's doing himself a disservice if he's not.
So back to Pleasant Meadow for the cash challenge. Box Clever, this one's called. It took a good 3 minutes in this episode before we heard any banging tunes. And there weren't many songs in this episode. It felt like the first 3 episodes had 25 songs between them. And this one, they were very few and far between.
They're running out of songs.
Is that what it is? That they've gone through, now that's what I call 19.
80 to...
Well, it would be
8.
like number 19, wouldn't it? Because it was back in the... Well, maybe even earlier than that. Now that's what I call 7 or something. But is it that they've gone through both A and B side and gone, we haven't got any songs left, so we're just going to have to find another 80 CD, and that's got like 90% of those same tracks on.
Just slow down.
I'm hoping in the next episode that some songs are repeated because they have run out, and when we get to season 2, it'd be really interesting to see if they reuse any of the songs.
Like I said before, they should go into the 90s season 2.
Even the format, it'd be great, wouldn't it? A slightly different sort of flavour to it.
No, I don't think anyway. No slow motion running.
No, absolutely.
If anything, it was normal or sped up.
Yeah, we could have done with just one. In the last episode, again, I think this is some time loop. I think Bruce is actually a time traveler, and this is what's going on, is that he's listening to our podcasts in the future.
And changing it.
And changing the format, because it's really strange that in the last episode, you mentioned how they're doing it 3 or 4 times an episode, and it doesn't need that much. And in this one, there wasn't any. They're listening to us. They're on to us, mate. They're on to us.
Definitely.
In this challenge then, so in Box Clever, the 7 campmates have 7 boxes in front of them, each with something inside that they can't see. Bobby reveals a board with various pictures on, including scorpions, snakes, eels, and they need to match what's in the box to a picture, or what's in their box to a picture on the board. They get $300 per correct answer, and there were 26 things that they could have, that could have been in these 7 boxes, all represented by a letter of the alphabet. If they get all 7 letters, it'll give them an anagram, and if they unscramble the 7-letter word, they'll get a bonus $900 to make up the $9,000. Correction, future Mike here, $3,000. I meant to say $3,000 there. Did you see the whole board? Did you pause it when the whole board was on the screen?
No,
it was wonderful.
What was wild stuff was on there?
So obviously you've got all the dangerous stuff and the things that could kill you,
Yeah.
but then you've also got a rabbit, a toy snake, some chorizo, cheese puffs, spaghetti bolognese. But What's brilliant is that you'd still be panicking, putting your hand into a box, and often they were putting your hand into a box, and it's just a pair of slippers or something like that. And
This is what. Come on, carry on. This is what I was.
Yeah, you could have an empty box, and the reactions would still be the same.
Yeah, and it makes me think. One of them's the killer, obviously.
Yeah.
Then some of them, like one of them had mice. I think Carl had mice
Yeah, he did. He did.
or rats, what you want. And he said, "Oh, like he's absolutely bricking it, but he's just keeping a cool exterior." I'm sure you would hear those in your box. You'd like.
The scuttling at least, but even like if they eek and things, do they eek? Do mice squeak?
Yeah, of course. There's enough of them in there. You're hearing them. You know,
especially when you're putting your hand in there.
You're breaking that little
moving
seal.
around.
Yeah, 100%. You're hearing those.
Mm.
And then it got to me thinking: is the order that they are lined up in predetermined?
Ooh.
Because one of them's got to be the killer.
Yeah. Was it a random box or?
Because I think Eleanor changed her answer, didn't she?
Yeah.
And which I felt quite bad if she isn't the killer, because she put a hand in and it's a toy spider.
It was it's like a slimy toy spider, plastic toy spider.
But they've dressed the box to have so many cobwebs in.
Yeah.
That you'd think putting your hand in, that's a real spider in there.
Yeah, you'd be thinking that.
But no one else had that though, did they?
No. Did she think toad as well? Didn't she say toad initially?
Yeah, but I think that's maybe I don't know, yeah.
And that's because it was like one of those spongy, like rubbery type spiders. From the texture, it probably did feel like a toad. My only concern or question around that was, if she was the killer, why would she change her answer at the very last minute to try and win the money? I don't think she would.
No, unless it's
a double bluff.
Yeah, like self-preservation.
Yeah.
But I just felt quite sorry for her, just because her box had all this webbing in. Which, immediately, as soon as you put your hand in,
you'd be bricking it because you think, fuck, I've got spiders in here or something.
Yeah, exactly. Is it one? Is it two? There could be multiple spiders in there.
Yeah.
But F1 is like, I think it was Holly just put her hands in, and yeah, there's cockroaches. But is it Holly with cockroaches?
I've got it all written down. To be fair, so yeah, when they begin, you've got Sam goes first and correctly guesses that he's got worms. Took him a while to get there, mind. And I think Rosie calls him out, saying, "Oh, you'd know a worm if you felt it straight away."
If I put my hand in straight away, I would have known what a worm felt like.
Worm she's felt.
Come on. Following on from the playing with the boys in the last episode.
Yeah.
Jax. Are we calling him Jax from now on, or is he Jacques?
No, he's Jacques.
He goes next and thinks it's a brain, and then on second go realises it's a cow's tongue. Fair enough. That's
yeah, because it's going to be like. Yeah, and he's got blood all over his hands.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. Rosie immediately gets it right. Toy snake. That was really easy. Carl bricking himself. He said he was shitting himself inside, but cool on the outside. Correctly guesses that there were rats in his box. Eleanor and Sian are both just wimps, but at least Sian manages to guess correctly with Toad. I thought the word was going to be morons, but it doesn't have enough letters.
That's good.
Because obviously at the moment they've got an M, an R, an O, I think an S and things like that.
And it was Sian that come up with monster or monsters.
Yeah. So I think that was Eleanor then. She did raise suspicions initially when she said Toad when it was a toy spider, but then she comes back. Holly got the cockroaches and they got the letter T, which meant they had SORM, T, and N. And it was only last minute when Eleanor changed her mind from a toad to the toy spider to get an E.
Can I change mine to E? It was bouncy. It wasn't a toad.
You think a toy spider?
Yeah.
And it took them ages. They didn't think they were actually going to get the anagram.
Can anyone guess the anagram?
Oh, bollocks.
What is your answer?
We need to make a word.
10 seconds!
There is literally no word that could be with that.
What about monster?
But yeah, last minute, or last second really, because Bobby's trying to, tell them, hurry up, you've got 10 seconds left. And Sian shouts out monster. I don't think she'd have done that if she was the killer. Because that's $900. Why would, of all the 7 people, if you're the killer, if I'm Sian and I'm the killer, I'm not going to then go, oh yeah, here's another $900, guys.
It depends how smart you are. Like I see it from...
because now she's thrown them off the scent completely.
Exactly.
No one is thinking it's her.
Because if you don't do it, then you, as the killer, you get those $900 in your pot.
Yeah.
If you do it and sacrifice that $900, immediately you're like, well, hang on, I just got the anagram for us. It can't be me.
She's now definitely taken the heat off her by getting that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Any suspicion. because it's well done, Sean. No one else saw it. Well done, well done.
Yeah, that's a real good point.
But I mean, it depends how you're playing the game.
Yeah. So
It's risky. It's a risky move.
it is. But that
One of the
means
things. Go on, carry on.
no, that means that Eleanor and Sean are still sort of. I almost written them off in this episode, thinking they'd done enough to convince me. But you're right. If they're double bluffing, if they're pulling a fast one just to try and secure themselves,
Like Eleanor is sus.
yeah,
I do feel bad for her because that was an awful box she had.
yeah,
But then, like I said before, if it's set up in a certain order, because I don't know how they're going to play it, but at the end, people could probably see what was in your box anyway. If she said toad, and she could be like, look, it's a rubber. Like, what else could I,
yeah. But then other people could have gone, but there's cobwebs in there, mate. Why would you have cobwebs in a toad box?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. I think one thing Bobby said though, he goes, "No one's having fun until you're up to your elbow."
Grot, pure
Absolute grot.
Up to your elbow. No one's having fun unless you're up to your elbow.
But they nailed the challenge. They won the full $3,000, and the killer got 0. So fair play to them on that.
Also, sorry, interrupt you again, because this is first task post Rob.
Yeah,
And morale is high. I think the killer had to lose
that's a really good point.
because everybody's suspicious now. Everyone's like, "Hang on, there's a second killer," and we've just gone to the next task and we've smashed it.
You've got to nail the task.
So
and now
who is it then?
harder.
Who is it? Yeah.
Oh, it's way more difficult for us than it was in the last episode.
Yeah,
way
because
more.
Imagine if someone you saw something a bit different this one, you'd be like, "Oh, it's definitely them now."
Yeah.
And everybody else would be seeing that. No, that the killer could not risk sabotaging this task.
That's a good
my
point because
opinion.
it's too fresh.
Too fresh.
Yeah. So after the task, we get a bit more Sean and Carl romance. They agree that neither of them could be doing it without each other, and then a full-on smooch. Is this the first proper snog they've had on the
I think it is. Yeah.
on the show?
I've actually wrote down saying, "Would you get giddy around Cole?"
Would I?
Question posed to you. Yeah.
I mean, after hearing what I've had to say about him on this podcast, he probably knocked me out. So yeah, I might get a bit giddy around him when I'm pulling myself up off the concrete. Birds flying around my head.
I think they say that obviously the relationship they're having, I don't know if Sean says this, is anything but fake. And I've wrote down, please be fake.
Oh, please. Yeah, I'm begging for it. Really am.
It will massively go up in my estimations if this turns out
It's
that
all been a
Sean,
fabrication.
Yeah.
If Sean or Carl are the killers.
Yeah.
Hold that thought because
And
they still might.
Cole dies at the end because his heart breaks. Bruce just walks up to him. Bruce just walks up to Sean, holds her hand. He realizes, and his heart just
heart
breaks.
explodes.
Yeah, I think we've referenced that before.
We did in the last episode. In the last episode with Ralph Wiggum.
It deserves a Photoshop.
What I would say is, we know that that's not the case because the show isn't highly rated enough on IMDb. Because if that was the case, it would be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So in the next scene, we see Eleanor and Holly chatting about how they were so wrong about Rob.
You've missed a bit. You've missed a bit.
Have I really?
Sorry, I know I'm going back again.
No, that's fine.
Because they're having a bit of a smooch in the field, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I want to say it's Rosie, just from memory. She walks up and goes, "Oh, I'm not interrupted, am I?"
That's after the Eleanor and Carl bit, Eleanor and Holly bit. Yeah, it's almost like 3 scenes, one after one after one.
I'm like, not interrupted. Of course you're fucking interrupted.
Eating each other's faces.
Yeah, not interrupted.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think that's yeah. So it's Jacques and Rosie both interrupt, and they discuss how Rosie might be at risk because she's the only person that voted for Sam. And then they turn to Eleanor, who they think is the weakest in the box challenge earlier on. Fair enough, she probably was, although she did last minute come back and save herself. So I don't think that was too big an issue. I'm reading these notes. I genuinely cannot remember who left at the end. So we'll get to it, but I might be mentioning people in these comments. Oh, no, I remember now. I remember. It's fine. In fact, that's actually a really good point. So they discuss how Rosie might be at risk because she's the only person that voted for Sam around the fire. But around the campfire.
Yeah.
And then in this episode, she's the one that goes.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick that up. So that is quite a good point.
So who around there? But that's not saying that she voted for Sam, therefore she's going to die.
No, it's not that Sam's got her. It's that one of that group, Jacques, Carl, or Sean.
She got Rob wrong, if anything.
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Oh.
I don't know how they judge it, but it's kind of like, well, she's the weakest member. If everyone voted for Rob and she didn't,
Yeah, she's now the weakest member of the group, so they're going to take her off.
In theory.
Yeah. In that scene where we see Eleanor and Holly chatting about how they were so wrong about Rob, made me laugh because he was the most suspicious and he got the most votes. So they weren't so wrong about Rob. Like, yeah, trusting and all that sort of thing. But in terms of actually getting the right person, nailed on. They got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
spot
You've
on.
known each other for about 3 days.
Yeah.
I'd happily lie to people for weeks.
For money.
Oh, 100%. Oh, for money, months.
What is this where I find out we've been like friends for 15 years and someone paid you back in
This isn't even my real name.
2006?
It's your dad.
It's just one big game show,
He needs a friend.
like the Truman Show or something.
Yeah. This is where I said
My old man's still depositing checks.
yeah. I haven't actually got a job. Your old man's just paying me to be your friend.
Thanks, Dad.
So this is the my highlight of the episode.
Is this where Sam?
Can't swim. Yes. And like that's not dissing people that can't swim.
No.
But it's the fact that he comes in, he's obviously shirt off, he's a good looking guy, and then he starts swimming, and I think Holly says, like, bless him, he can't swim very
It's
well.
going to take him
like
ages.
yeah, and it fucking takes him ages. Then
He's trying to.
then he tries to get his leg up on the platform, and he can't
He
do it
realizes he can't do it.
because he's knackered to the point where he literally falls in again. I think the first time.
Yeah.
And then Holly says, "Do you want a hand?" and put him up.
Do you want a hand?
Yeah. Yeah, pull me up.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Which is superb because he's almost trying to be that knight in shining armor because they've lost their pedalo.
Yeah.
You'd have thought he just swam to the fucking pedalo.
It's one of the pillar, mate. It fucking drowned. He's not getting there, is he? And then the cherry on top is the conversation they have after. You can hear him. He's out of breath. He can barely talk.
He's fucked.
He is fucked.
Since I've been here, yesterday was like definitely the worst day. Hated it.
It's not like, hang on, we'll wait 5 minutes, get your breath back, Sam, then we'll have a chat. He's like, oh, yeah, I think it might be Carl. Just calm down a minute. You just swam 10 meters. Calm down.
And when they talk about that, they mention Carl, Sean, and Jack, and that they're so close. It would be mad that one of them was the killer. I think it probably is, and that would be a great ending because that's the new triangle, isn't it? It's no longer Sam, Carl, and Sean. It's Sean, Carl, and Jack now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the killer later, but Rob was an obvious one, and at this point in the episode, I'm like, I genuinely have no idea. Like, of all the people left, there's no one that's obvious like Rob
Really
was.
stand out.
Yeah. So back to Pleasant Meadow from their team activity where the blue team faced the pink team in order to get the clues to the killer's identity. This one is called Blind Luck. It's dodgeball, one-on-one, blindfolded. If they hit an opponent, they score a point for their team, and the first of 3 points wins. Carl goes up against Sam first.
Blatantly.
Yeah, of course you're gonna.
I wrote that down. I wrote that down before I even seen. I said I better be Sam versus Carl.
Yeah, had to be. Getting them to spin around blindfolded is fucking brilliant. It's cruel, but it's a stroke of genius. And Sam falls right in his ass. He falls genuinely. But did you see Carl taking the worst dive I've seen? Like, over a hay bale?
No.
So, because all your attention is on Sam stacking it, he's just all over the place. If you go back to it and just have a look at that clip, and don't watch Sam, watch Carl, because it's almost like Rob's dive in the last episode where he's throwing the dodgeball. It's almost like he can fucking see the hay bale, and he's just like done a full on.
Or because Sam has fell, he's like, oh, I better pretend that I'm falling.
Oh, it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Do you think the killer's got an advantage in these games? Do you think the killer's got an advantage generally?
Yeah, definitely.
So you think going into the game they know what the game is?
Oh no, not necessarily. I don't mean that sort of. I thought you meant overall they've got an advantage because it's easy to hide as a killer and pretend to be thick and innocent.
No, but like if someone said to you, right, Mike, tomorrow we're doing this game.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
But you're blindfold, you'll be able to see out of it.
Yeah.
Or we're doing this box thing, you're going to have mice. Or we're doing this other game. I don't know. Just
I don't know,
there's
actually.
little advantages that you can manipulate your advantage.
Without getting too much into it, in terms of like competition law and things like that, do you think that they can't do that?
Oh no, they can't. Of course they can't.
I don't know, but it depends because the games don't actually mean. If the games meant something, like if the games meant points going into the final, then
No, but it's money into the pot, isn't it? It's the money into the certain pot.
oh no, you're right then. Yeah, absolutely can't be. Certainly on the cash challenges, anyway.
Yeah, but maybe on these challenges.
When it comes to immunity, it doesn't matter, does it?
Or is it just like, right, you're the killer, crack on with it?
Yeah, I think that's probably more likely. Yeah. They get a few shots in. Carl eventually hits Sam on the face.
A lot of face shots, isn't it? A lot of headshots.
Lot of headshots. Yeah.
It's the battle of the bikini bandana girls.
Then it's Rosie versus Sean. Again, perfect pairing, isn't it? Sean struggles, not knowing the difference between left and right, and also shouts, "You're terrible directors." And I wonder if that was at her teammates or the directors of the show itself. It's not that bad. Rosie hits Sean with the ball, and now it's 2-0 to the pink team. And next it's Holly versus Eleanor, and Holly ends up throwing at her own team. These two both absolutely rubbish, and I didn't know if that was sus or not, but they're throwing it at Bobby, they're throwing it out the ring. Eventually, Eleanor follows up with a winning hit, and the pink team win. So Carl, Rosie, and Eleanor get the clues. Sean hasn't had one clue yet. She's never been on the winning team. I don't think we need to read into it too much. It's just the way it's been. Or has she been sabotaging it? You'd think, though, that the killer would want the clues because then they can put the lies in, can't they?
Yeah.
Perhaps she's just not been trying hard enough if she is the killer. Anyway, they regroup and reveal their clues. Eleanor tells them this person has joined the Mile High Club. They once again think it's in relation to the rampant Sam. Carl tells them that the killer is an animal lover. And Rosie says the killer thinks their best quality is their eyes. Their impressions of Sam were a bit off.
But let's be honest, as soon as we say animal lover, he's going to be like,
No, man. He'd be like, well, to be honest with you, I think everyone can like animals. Yeah.
I think he'll be like, oh, everyone's going to think it's me.
I feel sorry for Sam slightly.
Yeah, massively.
Because a lot of this cut, like, I think maybe he shares too much, and a lot of it does sort of relate to him.
Yeah.
But also, I think later on when they discuss it as a group, he doesn't back down. They'll say something, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that does sound like me."
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I'm convinced he's not the killer, because the killer wouldn't do that. They'd be trying their fucking hardest.
Oh, animal lover. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And then even when they lied about the Mile High Club and changed it to poker.
Poker.
He's
so
like, yeah,
good.
I like poker. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's not even a clue, mate, and he still agreed to it.
It backfires so much, doesn't it?
But it just shows that he's quite open with that, and he's like, you know, he could have been like, they're like, oh, he hates, I don't know, kids. Oh yeah, I hate kids. You know, he'd quite openly say stuff.
I don't understand what their strategy was, though, because by saying like poker, well, if he did hate poker, or no, say if he was the killer, and he's been telling the truth all the way through, so why would he lie at that point?
I think it was to give them an opportunity, which you see later on with Carl, to maybe try and see if he has joined the Mile High Club.
Drop it in. You're right. Yeah.
But you say drop it in. It was the worst acting I've ever heard. It's like, oh, have you joined the Mile High Club?
Yeah,
like,
but then
Carl,
because he asks
obvious.
too many questions at the same time, he doesn't actually answer. It doesn't give him a straight answer. It's fantastic.
No, I was like, you'd lost your opportunity there. Well done.
If you was on a flight with Holly, would you like to join the Mile High Club? That is the question. If you're not already in it, of course.
I mean,
which wouldn't surprise me if you was.
I mean, mate, she's an attractive girl, so obviously, yeah. It'd be
Do you think
great club to be a part of, wouldn't it?
Not joined yet?
Who knows?
You're so funny.
Who knows, mate? I'm not saying I am, or I'm not saying I'm not.
Oh, it's so good. So good. Rosie really gets on my nerves at one point. I don't know the exact moment, but she says, can't we just vote Sam off already?
I think that's a bit of a dick move.
Yeah, and I put at this point, I hope she goes and Sam stays in this episode, and that's exactly what happens.
Oh, we've still got a chance to get more clues. Your name could be cleared, and I'm just there like, can we just vote him off already?
I feel sorry the fact that I'm fully expecting, although we've got one episode left, I don't think it'll happen, fully expecting the next round of clues to be like, I have multiple tattoos. Do you know what I mean? And they're all like, it's Sam. Do you know what I mean? And then, like, at the end, Sean takes her bikini off and she's just got fucking riddled all up her back.
Tattoos all over
her ass is just covered in, like, stick men and flowers and stuff.
It's funny you mentioned the tattoos because yeah, quite a few have got them. Jacques never takes his top off, so we wouldn't know if he's absolutely covered. But we know
Oh,
Carl's
he's like
got his sleeve.
He's like a prison.
Is that Red
regular.
Dragon? Is it
Yeah.
Red Dragon?
yeah. Yeah, Prison Break, mate. He's got a map of
Camp Pleasant.
yeah. Bruce's face on his back.
So they head over to meet Bobby again. This time it's to take part in their last immunity challenge. This one is called Hold a Grudge. Campmates have to hold a bucket of blood above their head with a broomstick. And when the wheel of misfortune is spun, they must perform the actions that it lands on. For example, kneel down or hula hoop. It's basically a game of last man standing. Whoever is holding the bucket up at the end will win immunity for themselves and one other person of their choosing. Before going into this game, Eleanor and... who was it? It was Eleanor and Holly. They chose to group together, didn't they, with immunity?
Fair play.
Yeah.
I like Holly as well. I've said it before.
Same. I'd love her to win. I'd love her to be the killer, but I don't.
Just get some money.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. The wheel is spun, and they all need to do 2 hops. And Carl has gone instantly, like first one out. And Bobby asks him if it smells like Norrie or Warren. Nice touch, really nice touch.
That's good, yeah.
Bitch!
Does it smell like Nuri or Warren?
Since Carl is out, he then gets to choose who does the next forfeit. The wheel lands on Bobby's special. In this case, the special is getting a campmate to twerk, and Carl chooses Eleanor. Is that just hounding out Eleanor, or did he just want to see her shake her ass?
But I thought this because it's not like it's on the wheel. It's like, depending on what it is, like depending on who it is, do you think he's like, oh, now do this? Do you think if it was like Carl or Sam, he'd be like, right, now, I don't know.
Oh, I see what you mean. Do you think the action changed because of who the
definitely. Oh, no,
was?
without a doubt. Doesn't it happen again?
Yeah, I can't remember though. So she does manage to twerk, doesn't she? So
fair play. Yeah.
Yeah, Eleanor manages to do it, but at the same time, and I think it just must have been distracting for Sian, she lets hers go. So now Sian's out as well. Sian gets to choose the next person, and hang on, what?
It's Bruce.
Oh, it's all right. Just some
Bruce.
So... or Carl just coming to knock me out.
This is a good bit. This is a fucking good bit.
So Sian chooses the next person, and this is to spin around, and she chooses Eleanor.
And the best, and Eleanor comes up with the line of the show: "Fuck you, Sian."
Fuck you, Sian.
Fuck you, Sian.
And then Carl's really upset with it.
Yeah, Carl's like, "Oh, you're so rude. I wanted to kick her off the stool."
Yeah, I'm about to kick her off that stool. It's a fucking game, mate.
Yeah,
and also
it's a game.
You've just been chose twice in a row.
Yeah, and your fucking love interest has just fucked her over, blatantly fucked her
over. Massively. And also, like, the fact that he got so upset, and he's like, she didn't get that upset for me. No, because you were the first person to choose her. And if you just choose someone once, that's fine. That's acceptable.
Yeah, you're spreading it around.
But if it's second,
it's like not bullying. What I'm thinking of, they're actively trying to get her out and not win immunity.
Exactly.
When Ella was like, "Fuck you, Sian," I thought, "Oh mate, I'll kick you off that stool in a minute. You're so rude." What an arsehole. She was actually serious as well.
The wheel's spun again. The next person has to kneel down, and
so Eleanor's out at this point, doesn't she?
Eleanor is out at this point, yeah.
Because I think Sam tries to make a mid-game immunity pact with Holly.
Yeah, that's it. So
fair play to him, because he didn't know about the previous one, did he? Or
the previous
immunity pact with Holly?
I think he did. I think that's what
he's
said.
Probably thinking, right, the odds for you, Holly, I'm still in.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it was exactly
trying to one up it, sort of thing.
If you go, pick me, but if I go, yeah. Sam does it with ease though, doesn't he? He gets told that he's got to kneel down or something like that.
Did he take his shoes off?
No, that's Jacques later on. Or is that's the head-to-head, I think. So they're all beginning to feel the strain. Rosie just loses Jack's concentration.
Jack's face is pain. Absolute pain.
It's though they go head-to-head, don't they? It's sudden death between Holly and Jacques, and they've got to take their shoes off. And yeah, Jacques fails. And the pail of blood drops right on his head. What I did forget to mention, actually, is that when Sam gets covered... It's where he has to do the 2 hops, actually. It's not where he's kneeling down. I think Sam has to do 2 hops. And when he loses, Bobby said, Don't worry, that's the blood from a vegan.
Don't worry, Sam. I know you're a vegan. I've given you a vegan's blood.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
after all that,
But this is when I sort of have conspiracies. It obviously is disproved with the laws around game shows. I keep thinking, was Holly's pole slightly wider? Slightly, you know what I mean? You could rig that game, couldn't you?
true, you could give the killer an easier.
At the end, didn't he say, "Oh, like clap or something"? And she let it like drip on her, didn't she?
Mm.
And I was thinking, would she have done that anyway, just to prove that it wasn't? I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Again, you could easily fix these because, but then
But
there's
just give him an advantage. Just have a wider pole.
Then I don't think there's no advantage for the killer to get immunity
because she also isn't stood next to anybody.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, that's me talking about blue shit because.
Yeah, no, I just wonder whether or not there's an advantage to getting immunity. If you're the killer, then what's the advantage of having immunity?
Yeah, true.
Unless it's just to strengthen that immunity bond between her and Eleanor. I don't know.
But anyway, immunity pact comes in absolute clutch for Eleanor.
It does.
Because
so that means
Holly fulfills it.
Yeah, and both of them have got a ticket to the final. In the next scene, we see Carl trying to get info from Sam about joining the Mile High Club. This is where it happens.
Oh, God.
And they talk about Sian again choosing Eleanor in the last task. And fucking move on from it, because...
I think Sam goes, I'm not saying if I am or not. Who knows?
Yeah, he does. He does. And I think that's a case of, you haven't, mate. You just want to look cool in front of your mate.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I love how Cole's always like, "Oh, have you a member? Are you a member of the Mile High Club?" He says member Mile High Club like 10 times in that. To the point where I'm thinking, do you actually get a membership? Like, is it an official registered?
If he's going to pull out a little blue card out his wallet.
And also, I mean, I struggle with this daily. Not joining Mile High Clubs, but being quite tall.
Yeah.
Like, so I know Sam isn't tall, but he's quite a big lad.
Mm.
And airplane toilets aren't that big.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Like, you've seen him fucking swim. Like, trying to fuck in an airport toilet is going to be 10 times harder. Isn't it? Like, there'll be limbs everywhere. That's why I think it's a girl. That's why I'm
You're all in now. It's a woman.
I'm all in.
Because the blokes
Sian.
Are too big.
All in Sian.
But then...
Because you say, because they say in there, Sam's a right, like, rampant fuck. It's like, hang on a minute. First day, Sian's hooking up with someone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She can't even go on a game show, like, and stay off someone.
I mean, Rosie was the same, though, talking about being all over the boys and things, but she's gone, so
yeah,
can't be her. Jacques and Rosie are talking about whether it could be Carl or Sian, but think Carl is too thick to be the killer. And imagine now that he is, because Sian will actually be livid. And I do genuinely want it to be one of those, as we mentioned already, the fallout, a whole thing, whether it's been a lie or not. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, especially if they're like, hey, I only hooked up with you to get past.
Yeah, just to get through to the final.
Like that, like dancing around.
Sian and Eleanor chat by the fire all about why Sian picked her in that bucket game. For fuck's sake, just move on. Who cares? You've known each other for 4 days. No one gives a shit. We next see Bruce creeping around at night with a baseball bat. Perhaps he's just a misunderstood individual and wants a game of baseball.
Yeah, rounders.
Yeah, all rounders. Anyway, they head to the campfire to see who's leaving tonight. Holly and Eleanor are both immune, and Bobby asks them who they think the killer is. Most of them all say they think it's Sam still.
It's time. I suspect you're wondering who is going on tonight's stunning camp experience. 2 of you will again go into the forest, but only 1 of you will return.
The killer has chosen Rosie and Jacques, and yeah, genuinely just really hoped it was Rosie that was going to go because she was just brutal about Sam earlier on. Rosie and Jacques leave the camp. They go on a moonlit promenade walk. Bobby goes on to tell his story.
We couldn't really have a campfire without a scary story, right?
Rosie and Jacques head through the woods, go their separate ways.
There's a part where Jacques is walking and he puts his hand on a branch and it snaps.
He's bricking it, mate.
And his face, he's thoroughly pissed off that this branch has snapped in his hand.
Rosie comes across a hot tub with fairy lights surrounding it and puts a Walkman on because, it's 80s, and listens to Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Bruce appears behind her, his dark figure standing over her, takes a boombox, drops it into the water, and electrocutes Rosie.
Would that electrocute? I don't think it would.
So, good death scene. It would definitely electrocute you if it's got a 240-volt plug going into the back, yeah. But I'm not sure why it looked like there was blood and stuff. And it did make me laugh that her skull pops out of the water.
Yeah, do you know, it reminded me of that Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah.
When they were a vat of acid.
The acid. Yeah. And they
They send
released
the
the
bones
bones at the bottom.
So she's actually still under there, holding her breath.
Oh, it's so good. Jacques returns and Sam is the first to greet him. The Eleanor pillow joke is still ongoing. I love the fact that they say that again.
Yeah.
I bet that big dorm room will feel very empty tonight. You'll have so many pillows, Eleanor.
And that's it. I guess that we've got one episode left, and there's only really one question to ask, and that is who you think the killer is.
I'm going to go for Sean.
Okay, I want to be different, and I had my suspicions about him in the last episode. So, I'll go Carl. I think one of those two, because I'm all in on that relationship being fake. I don't think it is fake, regardless of who's the killer. I'm sure there's probably some chemistry, but I just want... Imagine having to process that as Carl or Sean, the fact that, oh fuck, has it all been a lie? So, let's go for it, yeah? Lock it in. We think it's Sean or Carl.
Yeah, and I think the Mile High Club is confirmed to me that it's a woman.
Interesting.
It's too easy to say it's a bloke.
Yeah, I do like the idea that it was a bloke and a woman, like you say in a couple of episodes or last episode.
Animal lover. That's a real clue as well, wasn't it?
That could have been Rob. Was it an animal, or was that more recent? I can't remember.
Oh, true. Oh, yeah. I forget they share clues.
Yeah, exactly. Like these new ones, though, were all based on that new killer, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, until the finale. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week for another episode of Killer Camp. In the meantime, visit jasonandmike.com for more podcasts and videos, or come and say hello on Twitter. We're @PresentsJam.